adventurers, and welcome to the Micflayers podcast, coming to you today, peering deeply into a crystal ball. I am Martin O'Dwyer, and I am your host, and with me today, as always, is your host, Conor O'Brien. How are we doing today, Conor?
Not too bad, buddy. As you can see, I'm snaking in my cup of coffee as we start the podcast, so I'm going to be wired for the rest of this. Currently I'm sleepy time, Conor, because I just finished dinner and I had a couple of drinks, and I'm like, oh, I could just go to bed right now. Yeah. So I'm having the coffee to counteract all that.
I've been on early shifts all day, so I've been getting up at like 6 a.m. for work, so I am knackered. If you look at my eyes, I have big bags under my eyes. But I'm never too tired to talk about D&D.
You know what, Martin? I'd have to agree.
Yeah, from the amount of conversations we've had at like 1 o'clock in the morning, an hour post game.
Oh god,
being
finishing at 11:30/midnight, and then as I'm getting ready to go to bed or cleaning up some stuff before I get to bed, I'm still texting all four of you individually about stuff from about this session and the upcoming session. I'll talk about D&D any time of the day, man.
Yeah, I remember even when I was on nights, and like I'd get like a message, I'd be asleep during the day, and I'd get like a message and look at it, and if it was from anyone other than the D&D group, my phone just poof, down. But if it was D&D, I was like, okay, this needs to be answered.
Yeah.
And like, the amount of times I'd wake up and you're like, you know that thing you were talking to me about earlier, and I'd be like, yeah, and in the back of my mind I'd be like, what's he saying? Oh,
scroll back. Oh, that thing, right?
You're gonna need to mute me there. I just swore a little too early. Apologies. But yeah, just like my mind's just like, quick, search the index, quick, Control F, like conversation with Conor. But yeah, anything interesting? I suppose we haven't really been doing a lot in our D&D community because we're kind of on a bit of a break at the moment. But man, I've been having a lot of fun. With my guys recently.
We're on downtime at the moment. Yeah. A very valued part of D&D. Don't undersell that, folks. We're making magic items and doing some research and working some jobs and earning some money and stuff like that. And hopefully, not the coming week. Well, by the time this is out, it'll be the week after this week.
Yeah.
That will hopefully jump back in to the next arc of our campaign. Level 12?
11? I think.
Is it 11?
Okay, hang on. I'm gonna pull up Lug's sheet. I should really know this. I should really know this.
No, it might be. I think you could be right. It could be 11.
Because I know my guys are 12, and we're like a level behind.
Yes, so that sounds about right.
Yeah, 11.
11. Okay.
I'm 7 and 4 in my level split right now.
Nice.
ASI next level. Ooh.
Oh yeah.
What will we spend? Oh, I could get 20 con next level if I wanted to.
That would add another 10 HP onto you and your current. Not to mention you get like another D12 plus your. So what's that? 7 plus your existing con is 4.
Yeah.
So you're talking about another 11 points. So it'd be 1, 2, 2, and then add another 10. You'd be 1, 3, 2 on top of that.
I'm already at 1, 2, 2.
Oh, that's not anything. In that case, you'd be. 11 on top of that is 1, 3, 3, and then another 10 points, so you'd be 1, 4, 3.
And folks, I haven't taken tough.
Oh, and he hasn't taken tough. Barbarians are insane.
Oh, I could actually take tough next level.
You could take tough. Oh my god, you hit the 150 mark, I think. Then.
Oh yeah, I think I'd break through it. Yeah.
You just scraped 150. Yeah.
I am going to take Mage Slayer.
Ooh, yeah. Major is a great one too, though.
Yeah, because I have the physical stats of a god and the mental stats of a toddler.
Yeah, that's fair.
But yeah. Anyway, we've been doing some really fun stuff in my campaign recently with doing Mike's backstory and exploring like the Tabaxi wildfire spirit backstory.
Yes. So Mike is playing. What's his character's name again? Mandrai, the wildfire druid Tabaxi. With his fiery spirit cat Mushu.
Yeah, Mushu, the wildfire spirit. But like we're doing a thing now where basically his homeland around that like giant fire geyser has been invaded by a collection of giants who are like trying to reclaim the land, and they've anchored this like giant lightning storm to the area that's just covered like half the northern continent. And they're at the moment they're hunting down these the giants have like inserted these like elemental anchors around the basically around the this like flaming geyser called Ganunga, and it's to anchor the storm in place and keep it there so that it will just spread over the continent rather and can't be moved off by like natural elements and stuff. And it's just a lot of fun doing like elemental themed encounters. So like the first one they found was buried in a slave mine, and they had to fight these two things. Have you ever seen a monster in the book called the Demogorgon?
Are we talking about the Demogorgon that appears as in the actual demon lord?
No,
the demon prince, or we're talking about the left. I was going to say Left 4 Dead. The
Stranger Things.
Stranger Things.
Neither.
Stranger Things.
Neither,
oh, okay.
Shockingly. I found it one day because I was just looking for different kinds of giants to use for this encounter. They're and it's done like the Demogorgon with quotes around it. Is the name of it, and like it's literally like the Demogorgon. It's an Etin that is so dumb it thinks it's a Demogorgon, but it's got like extra special. It's got like extra special things where like it's got this like burlap sack basically that hangs from its neck with a couple of tubes that attach it to its throat and onto its chest, and it can do fire breath or ice breath, and it's got a bunch of different attacks, and it's a higher CR than a regular Etin. So I used two of them as the slave keepers basically to fight, and they were a lot of fun to use. But I just
because they both have two heads. Yeah, that's so funny.
But like I think the description is like they are certain they are the Demogorgon and cannot be persuaded otherwise. So they were a lot of fun, but they weren't chatting this. So they got the first one. The first one was this like they have to destroy I'm calling them elemental anchors. They're like these giant, large sized rune stones with a specific element on them. So they're hunting them down now. They got the storm one first. The last one they got was the air stone, which was this Friday, and I had it set up where it was like a bunch of floating platforms, and each of them was about 10 foot higher up and further away than the previous. So they all had to figure out ways to jump and make it across and use different abilities as like a little skill check. And then as soon as they get there and touch the rune stone, it was 2 air elemental myrmidons, 2 air elementals, and a living lightning bolt all came out of it.
Oh wow.
And it was fun. They milled them. They absolutely milled them. But it was fun to use.
There's something exceptionally cool about the idea of anchoring a storm to a region. There's something very, very cool about that. I love and I've based my own world heavily on a lot of this stuff. I love giants and I love elemental stuff. So that all sounds really, really cool. And Mike's character, Mandre's backstory and area with what was it? You said that this fire geyser used to go off.
It used to go off like every hour on the hour, and then as
it started slowing down,
and now it's completely out and has been out for weeks.
Right. Okay.
And like all the vegetation around it is starting to die off and grey.
Right. Okay. Yeah, because it was it's keeping the area. It was like a source of energy, like life energy for the region, right?
Yeah, the whole area, the whole continent is like just rife with like really extreme like elemental natural phenomena. So there's a whole, like the whole top of it is entirely frozen over. And like normally where Mike's people would also be frozen because it's on the same latitude as a lot of the really, really cold places. But because it had this, like, it's literally like a kilometer wide hole in the ground that just explodes with like, I think it's like 100 foot tall like fire geyser every hour on the hour. And now it's just died off. So like all that heat is gone. So everything is starting to die around it. And he's trying to like restore it now. So it's been a lot of fun to build into that.
To like create, it's almost like a what would you call it? Like a naturally occurring bell tower. If it goes off every hour, because then you can just time. You can be like, oh, it's 4 o'clock. It just rang there. The guys are just shut up.
Yeah, pretty much. Except it'd be like just doing your normal thing. You'd be like, well, man, how's it going? And it's sort of, and you look behind you. There's like a kilometer wide, hundreds of feet high column of fire for like 4 seconds, and then it just dies away. And you're like, anyway, how's it going?
Everyone just stops everything they're doing for a few seconds, waits for the gushing sounds of flame to stop, and then goes. So yeah, anyway, I was at the pub last week.
In a very Irish reference, it's almost like the Angelus.
Yes, it goes off and you just see hundreds of tabaxi just turn around and go.
Sorry, that's such an Irish reference. Oh god.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're having a lot of fun doing that, and I'm like planning like the final showdown for that arc, and like the big bad encounter for that arc. It's a lot of fun so far. They're a little bit away from me yet, but probably like 4 or 5 sessions time we'll probably be wrapping up that arc now. So it's been just because it's been something I've been teasing for like 2 previous arcs, like, and it started off very, very gradual and then more, and then he started having like visions and stuff like that. At one point he had, yeah. Oh, sorry, go.
I was going to say, you mentioned on the podcast before how you were hinting at that arc for some time, even in the previous arc you ran through on the Dragonborn Islands, the pirate arc. You had been hinting about that beforehand, and you were like, "Oh, you know that really important thing on your home, Bandre. It's look, something's wrong there." And he's like, "Yeah, but pirates."
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So I gave him a little shock when he was on the pirate arc.
Yeah.
Because like the entire time it's like, from the start, it's like, this thing has been like, it's not going normal. This is kind of getting worse. You need to look into this and do something about it, because it's down to you. You're the chosen one. And then it's like, cool. And it's been doing other things. It's like, okay, you have time now. Where do you want to go? These are all the things happening on this continent, including this one, where it's something specifically bad happening in your home. And he was like, pirates. Pirates, though. So yeah, I gave him a vision of this like giant tidal wave sweeping in over the mountains and just drowning the village. And like then I think he gets like a tap on his shoulder, and he turns out and he sees like the elder of his tribe is just like his eyes entirely blacked over, just like weeping black. And he like grabs him by the shoulder and spins him around as soon as he locks eyes, and then he just like snaps back to reality. Oh, that was fun. He freaked the fuck out when I did that. You're gonna have to mute me again, sorry.
I think we're maybe okay now. We're past the 10 minutes at least.
All right. Cool. But yeah,
I am trying to subtly cut out little curses here and there when I find them during the editing process. I don't hear them. The thing is, I don't hear when we do it because it's just natural language
They're
for us.
just words. Yes.
YouTube is so weird about it that I have to. I try to do it just so the algorithm doesn't punish us.
Yeah.
But
apparently the big 3 are the S, F, and C.
Yeah.
From other podcasts that I watch.
The S is in SH1T.
Shite, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, yes, yeah. So we have Irish colloquialisms we can use instead of those words.
Yeah, but one of those they've equated to the N word recently, so we can't use that anymore.
Is this the word? Oh, wait.
It's the C word.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It was a big update recently. We consider this as bad as like a racial slur. And your video will be demonetized and you won't be able to be found through searches.
The Australians are not going to like that.
That was literally my first thought. Australia is not going to be happy.
No, not one bit. Oh man.
Okay.
But yeah.
Should we actually talk about what we're supposed to talk about today?
I did just want to update you that I had seen Black Widow.
Oh yes, night. Do tell.
I really enjoyed it. It started. There was a little bit of a disjoint between the first and second halves because the first half plays out very much like a Bond film. It's like fight scenes, safe houses, country hopping, stuff like that. It's very, very cool.
It's very. I thought it was very Jason Bourne, particularly that bit where she goes to the safe house and meets Yelena. Very, very Jason Bourne. Yes,
very, very Jason Bourne. And then the second half kind of becomes, and it's not bad. It's just a bit. It's a bit of a.
It's a shift in tone,
different. Yeah, and it very much becomes like a 70s Bond film. Where, like, Dr. No style, he has a secret base with all his henchmen who wear weird uniforms, and it's super over the top and all that, which wasn't bad. It was still good, and I really enjoyed it. But yeah, I thought it was really, really good. I thought Florence Pugh fucking stole the show.
Yes,
she was amazing.
Her and David Harbour.
David Harbour was great as well. Really, really good.
Did he talk about me when you were trading war stories?
Captain America.
And
it was so
that,
good.
Both of our Russian accents there, as terrible as they were, are better than Ray Winston's.
Ray Winston?
He is Dreykov.
Oh, Martin, I swear. Okay, I'm not going to get into spoilers.
Yeah.
When that character showed up,
you see him in flashbacks and stuff as well at the start.
When that character showed up, I was like, I honestly thought like, oh, he's American. That's weird. Okay, because I thought he was like Soviet, but I guess not. And then a scene later, he has a slightly Russian accent. I'm like, okay, I'm very confused now.
No, it's just Ray Winston. It just
wasn't particularly consistent.
Yeah. Oh god, but I thought like that's a solid, like I would give that like a very solid 7.
I think it's definitely one of the stronger standalone Marvel films.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's up there with like Winter Soldier, but like I would say it's still. I think it's like a very fun film is how I describe it.
Like I think I'd have to sit down now and look at a list of them, right? But I think when I say standalones, what I mean is
Like the origin story films.
yeah, okay, it's technically not an origin story, but it kind of does deal with our origin a little bit, so you could argue it. But I mean, like there's definitely a few origin films within the MCU that I would rather watch this movie than watch them. You know, I definitely think it's if we lined all the movies up in order of how good they are, I definitely think Black Widow would be in the upper.
It'd be in the upper half. Yeah.
It'd be in the upper half, if not the upper 40%, I would say.
Yeah, it's definitely better. It's definitely better than like the first Thor, and like.
Yes,
I would put it.
And the second Thor, but everything's better than second Thor is the bottom rung of the Marvel ladder.
Yeah. It's like I'd put it above. Yeah, like I said, it's solid 7 is the way I put is what I give it. Like it's a really fun watch, but like it's not. I wouldn't say it's going to sound harsher than I mean it, but it isn't like Marvel at its best. You know. It's strong, but it's not like their absolute best.
It's not their best, no. But it is strong.
Yeah.
And I actually, do you know what got me? And like, it felt weird because I haven't been to. First of all, I haven't been to a cinema in about a year and a half. Yeah. So let's just get that out there. So that was an experience into itself. But then, when I sat down, the opening of the movie, and this is no spoilers, they do a bit of a flashback sequence, and then it cuts to the opening credits, and it does everyone's name flashing up, and it's flashing all these old pictures of like JFK and Soviet stuff and all this kind of stuff, as if they're like case files on the screen, and they're all black and white, and occasionally there'll be some red markings, and they look like Black Widow symbols and stuff like that, and they did this cover of Smells Like Teen Spirit.
Yes, Come As You Are.
And I was just like, was it Come As You Are? It Smells Like Teen Spirit.
Oh no, sorry, I'm thinking of a different thing. Yeah, it was Smells Like Teen Spirit. Yeah.
But it was this slow, really angsty version. Like as if Teen Spirit is 19 up, but it was this slow kind of angsty version of Teen Spirit, and I'm like, this is a different movie. The opening tone is so gritty, and I loved it. I was so there for it.
There's a super strong theme of like human trafficking, and particularly the trafficking of like like young girls. In this film, and they handle it really well, I thought. Yeah,
no, it was honestly, I liked it. Absolutely would watch again. Like I said, I think 7 out of 10 is probably where I'd fall as well. It was a really solid film, and I would definitely watch it again. And I wish. I'm in a bit of a duality about it, because on the one hand, I know this is, or I'm getting too hung up on this now. This is what I do. I'm in a bit of a duality about it, because on the one hand, I think that Endgame came around, and that kind of wrapped up the past 10 years worth of films, and then the fact that, like, you know, movies kind of stopped being produced and cinemas weren't open and this kind of stuff kind of was maybe the break Marvel needed, because after something as big as Endgame, I think you need a palate cleanser. And I think that the fact that we got a bit of a delay before any of the shows started happening on Disney Plus and before any of the new movies started coming out, I think that was probably for the best. But I think Black Widow kind of got the raw end of that deal, because I noticed some stuff where, like,
she's suing Disney.
Scarlett Johansson is suing Disney because
it was supposed
part
to be
of her earnings were tied to the box office sales, and of course it wasn't being shown in cinemas, or sorry, it was, but also they were going, oh, well, you can just pay for it in Disney Plus, which she gets nothing for, and they're dividing it and stuff like that. So, and also I feel like the movie, because I feel like people are maybe in a weird place where they're out of practice almost with Marvel. She kind of is the I don't know how to put it. Like that movie is almost like the starter now in a whole new feast of movies that is coming. But when when people are now 4 and 5 movies in 2 years' time or whatever, will this have fallen between the cracks a little bit? And I hate to think that, because it actually is a really, really good movie. But also, I had this moment today, and this is really sad. I hurt my own feelings with this, because I was watching a thing where a guy was just talking about Marvel writing, and how the movies can be a little bit samey as they go, and they tend to follow the same beats and stuff like that. And it was actually how Black Panther broke a lot of those beats. and he talked about, what was it? He was talking about all these things that all the Marvel movies do, and he mentioned the Stan Lee cameos, and then he's like oh, but I actually don't mind those because they're just fun. And I was like, yeah, I was thinking to myself, it'd be weird at this point if they didn't have Stan Lee appearing in them and stuff. And I was thinking to myself, when did he appear in Black Panther? And I'm like, oh, he was in the casino. That's right, in Busan. Was it Busan or it was in
Seoul.
Korea.
Seoul. Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, and I was like, oh, wait a minute, I just watched Black Widow last night, and he wasn't a Black Widow. What? He died.
Yeah.
It took me a solid 30 seconds, and I remembered he was dead, and I was like, oh, I hurt my own feelings now.
I think wasn't his last cameo like Captain Marvel, maybe?
I believe so.
Yeah, because I think isn't there a thing at the start of it where they do the Marvel logo, but all the pictures in it, instead of being superheroes, are Stan Lee.
Maybe, but
and they do like or it's either the start or the end of a movie, and it's like they do like the normal Marvel, like, you know, with the studios logo, where they have all like the clips from the movies playing in the different letters, and it's all Stan Lee. And I think it says like that finishes and flashes up then like a handwritten script like for Stan.
But he was at Endgame when they went back to the Shield base.
He was.
He drove along. He's like, make peace, not war, or something like that.
Sorry, that was it. Yeah. Was it?
So I do remember that. I'm pretty sure Captain Marvel did have what you're describing though, with all the Stan Lee pictures. But I think that was because that was around the time he died.
They filmed a bunch of James Gunn actually filmed a bunch of the cameos while he was doing Guardians 2. With Stan Lee. Oh, his cameo in Guardians 2 is amazing, where he's on like that planet with all the Watchers, and like they're leaving, and he's like, "Hey, you're my lift home."
and then he was all like, so in this other one I was like a mailman, and he's talking about his cameos, like he remembers them. So good.
I love that came from like a fan theory, because that was the original fan theory, was that Stan Lee was the Watcher, and then they were like, screw it, we'll toss the fans a bone. He's not the Watcher, but he's like an informant for the Watchers. That's
they sent him there maybe.
I love it so much. Oh man, but
okay, we're officially over the 20-minute mark. Now we can start talking about D&D.
Yeah. So what we're actually going to talk about today is, and also why I was peering deeply into a crystal ball in the intro, is because we are going to do a preview of what's to come for the rest of the year, at least up to October anyway, for D&D in 2021.
We have a busy few months coming up.
We have 3 consecutive months where we get a book, which is nuts, and I'm so happy. It's like, do you know what that Simpsons meme where it's like, you like donuts, huh? We'll have all the donuts in the world. Like, you know, and it's just like 2 of us in a chair, and they're just pushing more books at us. Like,
more D&D books into us.
Please give me more stuff I can like bolster my character. So the 3 books that have been announced and confirmed, and they're currently available for pre-order, we'll take that check in the post, please, D&D Beyond, are in order of their release. We've got the Wild Beyond the Witchlight, which is coming out on the 21st of September, which is very close, close, just over a month. Then we have Fizban's Treasury of Dragons, which that's definitely my favorite. It's definitely not to immediately expose my bias, but it's definitely my favorite.
No, I'm totally, that's my one as well. That's my most looking forward to.
And then and that one, and Fizban's is coming out on the 19th of October, so like less than a month from the previous one. And then the final one we have is Strixhaven, A Curriculum of Chaos, which is coming out on November 16th, which is again even less than a month behind. Get ready.
It's gonna be a busy end to the year. I'm super pumped for it though.
Oh, also, if you pre-order any of them on D&D Beyond, you get digital dice with them, and there's dragon themed ones for Fizbans, and I can't wait.
I actually haven't looked at the pre-order dice, but I must.
The last ones I got were the sanguine dice as a subscriber bonus, and I still can't get over the squish sound they make when you roll them.
The ones I'm using are the Rime of the Frost Maiden ones, and I keep saying it because what I'll do is we play digitally at the moment, and I'll roll them, and they'll go and they'll fall down, but then they make this whooshing wind effect, like maybe 8 or 10 seconds afterwards. When they disappear, they go whoosh, and they disappear, and I'm never ready for it, and it always comes into my ear. So I roll them, and I'm expecting them to make clacky sounds, and they do. And then I'm like, okay, cool. So, Martin, you take 18 points of damage. And then a full 3 seconds later, no one will be speaking, and all I'll hear is whoosh, and it makes me jump every time because I'm not ready for it.
I use the mythic ones from Theros, and like when you roll them, it sounds like you've pushed the drum kit downstairs. It's just like, and then it like stops, and if you get a 20, it like the 20 panel flips over, and there's like a symbol on it, and it's like, and then it kind of, and all the pieces come out, and it comes back together then. But it does the same thing where after like 3 seconds, these little portals will open up, and like the dice get stuck through, but it goes like, and like I'm never ready for that shit either. But yeah, I think I suppose. Sorry,
I was going to say, do you want to jump in and start talking about the first of the books?
Yes. So the first book, as I mentioned, is the Wild Beyond the Witchlight. So just as a general overview of what it is, it's basically entirely based on in this Fae carnival that is actually the counterpart to the carnival from Ravenloft that showed up.
Yes, exactly. In fact, it's even more closely related because the person who is the leader of the carnival in the Ravenloft book was formerly the leader of this carnival, and now the two leaders of this carnival were formerly the leader of that haunted carnival from Ravenloft, which is very, very cool.
They're called Mr. Witch and Mr. Light.
Mr. Witch and Mr. Light,
yeah. I do love that, and now after they've switched, they're like, oh, actually no, we all prefer this. Like, like the messed up guys from there's Shattered, the two Mr. Witch and Mr. Light are Shattered Thye. They're now running this crazy Fae carnival in the Feywild, and then I can't remember who's running their Van Ritten's one.
There's an Eladrin woman. I can't remember her name. Yeah. But there's an Eladrin woman who is running the Dark Carnival in the Shadowfell or in Ravenloft.
That's such a fun concept. I love it. Like, cause then you get the slight potential for like this horrifying carnival. It could actually be kind of fun and cool and just like spooky fun in an otherwise absolutely horrifying adventure.
Yeah.
And then you have, oh yeah, here's a carnival in the Feywild. It'll be really fun as long as you're careful. And say, no, this is ran by someone who likes to eat souls.
Yeah, it's got that kind of thing where it's like, I don't even know how to describe it, where like everything seems nice and seems pleasant, but there's this underlying
I'll tell you exactly what it is. It's the same reason why Pennywise is creepy.
Yes, because he is a clown, and there are things that are meant to be fun and colorful, but the fact that you've taken something fun and colorful and twisted it into something evil is what makes it specifically. It's like when kids are murderers in horror movies.
Yes,
it's like kids should be innocent and carefree and stuff, but no, this kid is a serial killer, and that's why it's so messed up. Is because you've taken something and you've made it the antithesis of itself.
It's that corruption of the goodness of the initial thing, like. But also I just love like. Because I've always enjoyed, I've never used one, but the Rakdos carnivals or the Rakdos circuses, I think.
Oh, the blood circuses.
They're circuses because I've seen them ran in like Ack Inc. Streams all the time, and like particularly the one they did, I believe I think it might have been the first one they did with Austin Creed, also known as WWE's Xavier Woods.
Yes, he was introduced with. I think it was also the first one that Jeremy Crawford took over.
It actually was. Yes.
From, help me out, Chris Perkins.
Sorry, I knew the name and then I didn't know the name, and then you immediately got it. It's like you pulled it out of my brain.
I always, the way I think is I never usually have trouble remembering his name, but I always laugh because his name is Chris Perkins, and if you watch Parks and Recreation, there's a character named Chris Traeger who ends up dating and marrying Ann Perkins.
Okay.
So to put their names together, it's Chris Perkins.
Yeah, and Chris Traeger is a psychopath. But sorry, fuck off. But yeah, it's just, it seems like it's going to be just a lot of really fun and kind of just slightly twisted things. One thing about it that I've read that I can see putting some people off, but I actually really like it, is that Jeremy Crawford has said that every encounter in this has a non-combat solution to it. So if you can just think and talk well enough, you can make your way through it, which is something I really like, because that's so in the spirit with like the Fae and like making deals with like Fae and like using your words very, very carefully. It's one thing I absolutely adored in season 1 of Critical Role towards the end of it, where they were asked to go and get a threshold crest by Artagan, the Archfey, as part of a deal.
Right.
I think it might have been Artagan, it might have been someone else, but like they went, okay, yes, we swear that we will get you a threshold crest. So what they did was they used stone shape to make an exact mimic of a threshold crest in this elven city that they were in. Popped that off the wall, walked back to him and went, there's your threshold crest. And like Joe just like, yeah, no, they fulfilled the full terms of the deal. You didn't get what you want, but they fulfilled the full terms of the deal, and there's nothing you can do about it.
It's kind of like making deals with genies and stuff. You got to be careful of the phrasing.
Genies or demons. I love that demons can write contracts into invisible ink. By the way, that it would be such a dick move to fuck your player over. But like that moment where you're like, okay, you read the contract, you read through it, you can't see anything messed up in there, nothing about owning your soul or anything. If you feel confident, you sign, and then you just narrate that, like, yeah, as soon as you finish your signature, you see a flame kick up in the middle of and towards the bottom of the page, and then just burn down the page, and as it does, the invisible ink that covered the rest of the contract you just signed appears, and it's like you now live in Avernus. You have to you have to wash Null the Turtle Death Cleric's feet every day at 4 p.m.
There's an ad that pops up semi-regularly for me on, I want to say it's on Facebook, and it's flame inks. They're like, you can write stuff in them, and then you watch someone and they write a letter, but then half of the thing is like, it looks like Nordic script, and then they take a lighter and they kind of hold it under it, and it does whatever chemically to the flame reactant ink, and that ink disappears and it leaves the actual message. It'd be so funny to do that to players and be like, oh yeah, you guys don't have true sight? I assumed you saw this last paragraph, and then you just flame the last 2 lines, and it's like, oh, and we also own your soul, sorry.
Yeah, that would be like kind of a dick move as a DM. But like,
it'd be so.
It would be so like, as long as you didn't push what they had just agreed to do too far, like that could be such a great seed for like an arc for a character to try and find a way to break this contract.
Yeah, absolutely. Something interesting I actually heard when I was looking up some stuff about the books today. So the Wild Beyond the Witchlight is actually a story that Chris Perkins has wanted to tell for some time.
11 years.
Yeah, since 4th edition. So he was still working Wizards with 4th edition was around. He wrote the outline or the basis of this story then, and then it kind of got shelved a little bit. And then 5th edition came out, and he's been wanting to do this for years and years and years. And like, honestly, we've been saying it. It's weird that they haven't done a proper Fae setting or proper Fae adventure, because we've had giants and dragons and elementals and undead,
demons,
jungle related stuff. If we want to get into Tomb of Annihilation,
I'd put it this way: they got to a Greek mythology book before they got to a Fae book.
Yeah, exactly. So the fact that they're finally getting to this, and you and I were saying it even, I think, earlier in the year on the podcast, we were saying we really like to see them bring a Fae book out and stuff like that. So I'm really pumped, particularly because I have, in our current campaign, I have a country called Caelda, which is essentially like a Celtic, slightly Celtic. It's mostly Celtic with a dab of Viking thrown in there, kind of country, and it's meant to be like Celt. No points are guessing that one. But yeah, I whenever I have stuff going on with them, I like to include Fae related things, because in Irish folklore and Celtic folklore, there's a lot of fairy related stuff in the fairy world and giants and all this kind of stuff. Yeah. So I like mixing that in, and the fact that this will maybe give us some more options. There's meant to be, I don't know how many more monsters, but there's a handful more.
I think I
monsters
might have
and
written
stuff
it
like
down
that.
somewhere here. Let's see.
Looking at the thing here, I do not.
I didn't write down monsters, but there is one thing I saw here that I think would be a really fun thing for us to talk about, and it's probably going to be one of the main features of the book. Is so in Ravenloft, in Van Richten's Guide, we had Domains of Dread, as a counterpoint. This book almost feels like a counterpoint to Ravenloft to some extent. At this book here, we have Domains of the Light, where basically it's similar in function and execution to the Domains of Dread, but each one, rather than being ruled by what were they called again in Ravenloft? Dark Lords?
Dark Lords, yes, or something?
Rather than being ruled
Dread
by a
Lords,
I think it was a Dark Lord. But rather than being ruled and operated by a Dark Lord here it's ruled and operated by an Archfey. And they have all different rules and stuff like that. And what I really love about it, and it's related to the art, the art in all of these books, as usual for D&D, is absolutely outstanding. But in Wild Beyond the Witchlight in particular, there is a big poster map in it of the area, basically the whole area of the carnival itself that the adventure takes place in, and it just gave me such strong Cuphead vibes from like the Cuphead overworld map, and I was like, oh, that's what you could do with this. You could do a Cuphead one shot in D&D with this so well. Like it's the exact kind of tone as well, where it's like that. You know, it's like an old school cartoon, and that it's like kind of all happy and bright colors and stuff. But there's messed up stuff going on. Like
there's some sinister, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's that. Yeah, it's that like initial presentation of like wholesome, like funny, childish kind of thing with the sinister undertones. That is like my favorite thing about the Fae, where it's like playful and fun and but oh yeah, no, don't like
everything's deadly.
Oh, but here, if you step on a crack, we will break your arms back.
Yeah. There was one that Matt Mercer did in campaign 1 where they passed some. But there's some floating instruments.
Yes, it was like a natural amphitheater, and there was just some and they heard music from it, and they followed the music, and when they got close enough to the music, it was like a phantom troupe of players, and it was just floating instruments. And I think they
they saw like the ground was all trampled in the circles, and I think they had to make wisdom saves. If the music gets to them, it forces them to start dancing. And if they can't break free, then they will keep dancing until they die. They would literally dance themselves to death. And again, you're taking something happy and fun like dancing, and then you're making it something grim because you will dance yourself to death and you will not care. And you'll smile the whole way while you do it. Again, that's taking something and making it super deadly.
I love that because that actually happened in human history. It was called the Plague of Dancing. It happened in like the middle age. I think around the 15 or 1600s in France. There was a plague of dancing, where basically one day this one woman just stopped in the middle of the street. And you think like medieval Europe, 15th, 16th century, highly Catholic, super dour, miserable. You're eating rotten bread and grains every day. You're a pretty miserable person. And this like random French peasant woman, I can't remember her name, but she just stopped in the middle of the street and just started dancing, like in the middle of the town square. And like everyone was like, oh, that's weird. But then she didn't stop. And then she didn't stop for hours, and she was her feet were bleeding. And like she literally like danced for so long that she just collapsed from exhaustion, and then like rested for like an hour or two, and then got up and immediately started dancing again. And then it started to spread, and more people began to join, and like it was just this like whole thing where I think it was like it ended up being like a group of like 30 people just dancing non-stop without break, and like they weren't happy about it. Like they were like crying, and like their feet were all like bleeding and busted and broken, and like people were literally dropping dead.
Have you ever seen the music video for Party Rock Anthem?
Yes, I have.
It's literally, it's like a zombie apocalypse, and then your man's like, every day they're shuffling, they won't stop, and then they come out of the buildings like zombies, and everyone's catching the shuffle or whatever.
But it's imagine
that.
But
a 2010 reference here.
Oh god, imagine that. But it literally like people dancing themselves, like dancing for so long that their feet are bleeding and breaking, then they pass out from sheer exhaustion. They're out cold for maybe like 20-30 minutes, and wake up, drag themselves up onto their broken, bleeding feet, and immediately start dancing again. The only way they were able to get it to stop was, I think they had to like forcibly confine and drag all the people to the statue of a specific saint, and I think they had them like kiss its feet, and then they prayed a vigil over them for like a day, and kept them like secured and stopped them from dancing, so they could
maybe the parents in Footloose had a point after all.
I think that the leading theory on it is that there was some corrupted grain that had molded and gotten infected with like LSD through the mold process, and I think it was like something like that, and like a combination of that and like mass hysteria are the leading things. But like that would be a great like set piece for like a Fae adventure, where you come in and you just see that one person dancing, and from afar away it looks like they're having a great time, but you get up close and it's like that one person in one division who she's like always stuck hanging up that one Halloween decoration, and she's just like in a glitch, crying. And like you come up and you just see someone dancing, you hear all the music, you think it's great, and then you get closer, you see like their feet are bleeding, all their clothes are shabby and worn from like just being out in the elements all the time, and they're just like their eyes are all red from crying, and are just like pouring with tears. As you get close
I had a third joke I was going to make. One of them was Party Rock Anthem. One of them was Footloose. I had a third joke about dancing, and I can't remember what it was. I don't know. I'll come back to it. If I remember in 30 minutes, I'll be like, ooh, and I'll say something completely random, and you won't know what I'm talking about. But There's a joke. Oh, I can't remember.
It's just that, but I suppose will I just do a quick rundown of so far what we've got confirmed is in the Witchfire, the Wild Beyond the Witchlight.
I do have a list here actually.
By all means, take it away, Mr. O'Brien.
So, as per D&D Beyond, the first official Dungeons and Dragons adventure set in the Feywild, the Plane of Fairy, 2 new playable races, the Fairy and the Herengon.
If you say that really slowly, you will get the pun.
Yeah. So we actually covered both of them when the UA came out for these Fey races. The Fairy being the Fairy, the Herengon is the rabbit folk race we had. Yeah. They're now called the Herengon, as in they're here and gone, Herengon, and also they're hare rabbit. Yes. Even though hares and rabbits are 2 different things, but I suppose we'll overlook that for now.
Do you know what the difference between a rabbit and a hare is?
Spelled differently.
You can pull a rabbit. You can pull a hair out your arse, but you can't pull a rabbit.
Okay. Cutting this entire section of the conversation from the podcast.
You won't, and you know you won't.
I know I won't. I'm too lazy. So new character backgrounds, like the Fey Lost and the Witchlight Hand. So the Fey Lost is someone who has wandered into the Fey by accident because, you know, the different portals that appear on the material plane. And then the Witchlight Hand is someone who has worked for the carnival for some time. New ways to face encounters, including non-combat options, allowing players to think and roleplay their way out of situations. Again, that doesn't mean you necessarily have to roleplay or think. Fighting's always an option, but it's nice that this book gives you a bit more practice, maybe in the realm of clever thinking and also roleplay. Because
Sorry, what I was just saying with that immediately brings to mind, like, you know, in Avatar when Aang goes into the spirit realm, he has to talk to Ko, the Face Stealer.
Yes, yeah.
Immediately that brought visions to like stuff like that, because you could do some really cool stuff with the domains of delight and like meeting various archfey, and maybe one of them is a Face Stealer, and he's saying, doing all this stuff to try and get a reaction out of you, and you have to try and make, I don't know, like, I guess wisdom saves to try and not show emotion, not react to it. Yeah, that would be cool.
Then we have so this is there's been a few. I'm actually not familiar with these characters myself, but there's a few returning characters from like 80s D&D media, including the game and a few shows and stuff.
Specifically the D&D cartoon, I believe.
Yeah. And the 3 of them are listed here are the War Duke, Strongheart, and Kellic. Again, I'm not sure who these people are, but they're recurring characters from the 80s cartoon at tie-in, which is pretty fun if you were someone who watched a cartoon growing up or something like that. That's a really, really fun little thing to throw in. And I think a Fey-based book set around a fun carnival is the perfect time to throw in silly cameos and stuff like that, where, you know, the stakes don't feel like they're too high necessarily.
And you could do like a lost in time thing with them as well, seeing as time works differently in the Feywild.
They, as far as they're concerned, maybe they only arrived a couple of days ago. And not, 40 odd years.
It's still the 80s as far as they're concerned.
Exactly. Oh my god, could you imagine if all those if you introduce those characters but you play them all like 80s stereotypes? So they've got boombox and parachute pants and stuff like that, and
or like you play them as if they're in first edition D&D.
Everybody's on cocaine,
and they're like, "What do you mean, elf isn't a class?"
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Play them like that.
Well, I'm an elf wizard. That doesn't make any sense. Both elf and wizard are classes where I come from.
Oh, you're a monk. Did you have to finish your did you have to half level into bard, then half level into cleric to get that? No, that's just a thing now. What the fuck?
I just picked monk.
What the fuck is that? That's a dragonborn.
Yeah. But yeah, that could be really fun. To introduce those characters like that.
Just have like a boomer D&D lost in time person. Oh my god, that would be so. Oh god, I'm so doing that.
What do you mean it costs 50,000 gold pieces to buy a house now? I bought a house for 500 gold pieces back in the day.
No, right. What you do is you just write the wizard a letter, and you tell them that you really want to be their apprentice.
Yeah. Oh my god. You have to have a cover letter whenever you apply for a class.
You can study anything you want at Strixhaven, and you will have a job for life.
Exactly, yeah. What even is liberal arts?
Oh god, some kind of necromancy, I believe.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, banned in many places, many kingdoms. But yeah, that's basically it. I'm looking forward to this. I'm not one to play adventure modules, beat for beat. Typically I will read through them and I will use them in inspiration in my home game, but I mean, if they add in a few more Fey based monsters, I'm happy to have I think I said this before. The fairy I'm quite happy with. Maybe I'll warm up to the Heron. I don't. The name is definitely selling me more than Rabbit Folk.
I think the mileage you get out of Herringon will very much depend on the player who's playing a Herringon. Because if they just treat it like any other race, I think it'll be totally fine. But if they start getting weird with it, that you might have to have a conversation.
Yeah. So yeah, I think there's some cool stuff here. And like I said, I think I'm really looking forward to the fact that, because I really enjoy Chris Perkins's writing and creativity and stuff. I'm really excited to see what in his head is so, I don't know, maybe integral, is that the right word?
Yeah.
To his creative process, or so encompassing of his creative style that he would hang on to a story like this for 10 plus years. That I'm curious about how that would play out. Not to big it up or anything. Yeah. I'm sure it's good, but I'm just curious, like, because I mean, man, there's like arcs and stuff that I started. Our last campaign ran for 3 years, and there was stuff I started early in that campaign that by the end of it I was like, I don't even care about that anymore. There's stuff in this current campaign where I'm not gonna follow through that storyline unless the players really want to, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I mean, yeah, that's Wild Beyond the Witchlight, available September 21st. I'm super. I think it's pretty cool. The cover, the book cover, looks amazing. Is there an alt cover for that?
I believe there is an alt cover for all three. The Fizban's one is particularly cool.
It is. It's like a yin yang, but with dragons, kind of. Oh, it's really cool.
Do you know the way Chris Perkins said he was waiting like 11 years to write this? And do you reckon every single time they're like, right, we're going to do a new book, and then from outside the room they just hear the sounds of running, and door slams open, and Chris Perkins like, we're doing the Fae book, we're doing it now, and they're like, Chris, we've told you in 11 years you will do the Fae book, and then every single time they're like, we're gonna do a new book, and they just hear like, and like Chris Perkins, and they're like, Chris, we told you last time. No,
he comes in and they're like, sure, Chris. Well, why don't you leave it there on the edge of the table, and we'll have a look at it. And he's like, okay, cool. And he's kind of just smiling, just slowly backs out of the room.
Chris, is it the Fae book? Is it the Fae book? Yeah? You can just go. Give me the outline of it there. I'm just gonna type it up on my invisible typewriter here.
Yeah. Yes, I've just looked at the alt cover here. So the primary cover of this is a picture of the carnival itself, and then Mr. Witch and Mr. Light. Pretty cool looking, very nice colors with like oranges and kind of like midnight blues and stuff. The alt cover has a similar look to Tasha's, but there's a big purple displacer beast on the front, a stylized displacer beast. It looks really, really cool. Apparently there is a displacer beast kitten in this one named Star.
Oh yeah, I've seen that. It's adorable. It's absolutely.
It's really cute. It looks like a little baby panther.
I do not like cats. That thing is adorable.
I think we should hop on to the next.
Yes, absolutely. So the next book after that is mine and Conor's favorite of the three, and is one that stands alone from the other two in that this is basically a source book rather than an adventure book, which the other two are, and it is Fizban's Treasury of Dragons. This one, again, another one where we've seen a lot of stuff. We've gotten like a preview of a lot of stuff that's going to be in it as part of the UA, specifically like the draconic options.
Which we covered in an earlier episode of the podcast.
Yes, we did, and I think a lot of them have stayed quite similar, from what I understand of the book. Obviously, this is all pending the actual books coming out. We're only working with like previews and what we've heard, what we've been told by people involved in the process or near to the process, or like Todd Kenrick or people. But yeah, the big ones in this for me anyway are Gem Dragons coming back from previous editions, which is a huge one. Two new subclasses which are really, really good. Both of them I'm a big fan of, which is the Drake Warden Ranger and the Way of the Ascendant Dragon Monk.
The Drake Warden Ranger. I mean, I've voiced my complaints about Rangers before on the podcast. I think now that we've had the Tasha's optional improvements and stuff, they're very, very substantially improved, and I feel that they're on par with other people. Holy hell, the Drake Warden Ranger is something else, man. Oh, it's so cool. I cannot believe how cool it is.
You can live your Pokemon fantasies as the Drake Warden Ranger.
Your Pokemon / How to Train Your Dragon / Game of Thrones fantasies. It's really, really cool. I personally, I can't wait to see that one in action. I think it's gonna be fantastic. The Dragon Monk.
Way of the Ascendant Dragon, yeah.
Way of the Ascendant Dragon is bordering on just being a better elemental monk.
It's definitely one of the better monk subclasses to come out in a while. Although all the recent monk subclasses have been pretty awesome.
To be fair, yeah, I was gonna say the Astral Self one is really cool.
Yeah.
And what was it? What we got?
Astral Self, Cobalt Soul. There is
what's the one with the healing one? That's like your plague doctor.
The Way of Tranquility.
No, an older version of it used to be the Way of Tranquility. That was a few years back. That was an old UA one.
Oh,
1 second.
Why can I not think of this at all? It's because I've literally never looked at that one past like, oh yeah, cool, that exists. Because I'm always like, ooh, Astral Self, or ooh, Cobalt Soul, or ooh, Open
It
Hand.
is the Way of Mercy.
Yeah.
Very, very cool as well. But I absolutely think the way this Ascendant Dragon one is going to be, I think it's going to be pretty popular. And I think people looking to play an Elemental Monk, but not the book Elemental Monk, because let's be honest, it's Wake, I would probably gravitate towards this as an alternative option.
Yeah, honestly, it's a really, really fun subclass. I hang on, I'm gonna have it in front of you there, and just to give a brief overview of the actual abilities that you get from it here. I know we went through it quickly, but just the main highlights of it, or whatever the main gimmick is.
So let me see here. So 3rd level, you get you can channel your Draconic Key to imbue your unarmed strikes with Essence of Dragon's Breath and use your connection to the Draconic creature to magnify your presence. When you damage a target with an unarmed strike, you can change that damage type to Acid, Cold, Fire, Lightning, or Poison. If you can't already speak Draconic, you can now speak Draconic. And if you fail a Charisma Intimidation or Charisma Persuasion check, you can use a reaction to re-roll the check as you tap into the Mighty Presence of Dragons. Once this feature turns a failure into a success, you can't use it again, which is a cool thing. So basically, you get to keep trying until you eventually succeed. When you do, it's used then, but that's kind of cool. You get a Dragon's Breath ability, which is let me see now. It's your attack action, Draconic Energy, 20-foot cone or 30-foot line, 5 feet wide. You choose the damage type again, Acid, Cold, Fire, Lightning, Poison. Each creature must make a saving throw. At 11th level, your breath increases to... so it's currently 2... It does the damage it does is 2 rolls of your martial arts die. This one here increases to 3 rolls at 11th level of your martial arts die.
And that, of course, scales as your level as well, then.
Yeah, and you can use this feature a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus. Nice. You regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. While you have no available uses, you can expend 1 key point to use this feature again. So, I mean, from a 3rd level, you can use it twice, but you'd also have 3 key points at that, so you can potentially use it 5 times. Really, really cool. Yeah. This is the way you get a little bit away from the Elemental Monk side of things, but Wings Unfurled, when you step at the wind, you can unfurl spectral Draconic wings from your back that vanish at the end of your turn. While the wings exist, you have flying speed equal to your walking speed, which, as you know, for a monk is a crazy fast amount of speed.
So cool.
You can use this feature a number of times equal to proficiency and regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. Same thing again, when you have no uses, spend a key point to do it. Actually, sorry, when you spend a key point, you can spend an additional key point when you activate Step of the Wind to use this feature again. So I think that means you spend a key point for Step of the Wind, and then another key point, and then you get the effect again.
It's very... do you ever remember that show, Jake Long, American Dragon?
I never watched it, but I know the one you're talking about.
This one class gives me such American Dragons, or Fairy Tail, like the Dragon Slayer mages from Fairy Tail. It was all very similar stuff. Oh my god, I'm so excited to see it added to the game.
11th level, you have Aspect of the Worm. The power of your Draconic Radiance from you, raises against. As a bonus action, you can create an aura of Draconic power that radiates 30 feet from you for 1 minute. Choose 1 damage type for the duration. You and your allies gain resistance to the chosen damage type when you're in that area. A wave of destructive energy flows out from you and your allies when any of you are attacked. When you or your allies in the aura hit by an attack and a creature, the target that was hit can use their reaction to deal an amount of damage of the chosen damage type equal to 1 roll of your martial arts dice. So basically, it's like a mini Hellish Rebuke almost.
That's really.
But at 11th level, I think you're talking about D10s at that point. So it's 1 D10 as a reaction, and not just you, but all your allies that are within the field. Yeah. And that's 30 feet. That's a 60-foot diameter. It's big, like.
That is Hellish Rebuke, I think, isn't it? Oh no, Hellish Rebuke scales, doesn't it? Because it's a cantrip.
Yes, and I can't remember. I think it's D10s, but I think it starts off 2 D10 and it's 3 D10
no,
at
Hellish
second
Rebuke
level.
is like 1st level, sorry. Yeah. Sorry.
once you use this feature, you can use the feature once as a bonus action, and then if you want to use it again, you can spend 4 key points to do so. But already you're 11th level at that point.
Yeah.
So 11 key points. And finally, your Draconic Key reaches its peak at 17th level. You gain Blindside out to a range of 30 feet, which is really, really cool. Within that range, you can effectively see anything, blah, 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 Blindside, Darkness, visibility, blah, blah. When you damage a creature with your Breath of the Dragon, the energy clings to the target, and at the start of each of your turns, it takes damage of the chosen breath type dealt equal to 1 of your martial arts die. At the end of your turn, the creature can repeat the save and throw on effect. So it's kind of like it's a more, you can hit them once with it, and then they can continue burning, or continue to be burnt by acid, or continue to be bitten by the cold, or whatever it is. Finally, when you activate your aspect of the worm, your Draconic Fury explodes from you. Choose any number of creatures you can see within your aura. Those chosen creatures each take 4d10 acid, cold, fire, lightning, or poison damage, your choice. Again, this is all subject to change because this is the UA, but I don't think anything here is exceptionally broken.
No, it's just,
I think
it's
everything's
just really
pretty
good. It's just like
it's good, yeah.
It's powerful, but like not too. But like a lot of those have like self limiters involved, like inherently in them, because you're working from a pool of key points, and if you want a flurry of blows, patient defense, step of the wind, that kind of stuff, all of that chips away at your pool, so you're not going to be able to do your big dragon blasts multiple times.
Yeah, I think it's a really, really cool class. Well, that's going to be coming up in Fizban's.
Yeah, so October, we'll be getting that one.
That's easily the one I'm looking forward to the most, because again, this book is going to have the most amount of crunch of the 3 books.
Absolutely.
Because it has it. I'm really hot take. Dragons in D&D are boring.
I think we've chatted a little bit about this before. Yeah.
In a game called Dungeons and Dragons, the dragons themselves are actually a little bit boring, because once you faced off against a handful of dragons, you realize all the stat blocks are basically the same, except they maybe have a little more health or a little more AC, and the damage type changes depending on the color of their scale and stuff. I currently have some dragons planned in our campaign, and I purposely built them to be nothing like other dragons. I'm straying away from the template as much as possible, because again, it should be a big deal in D&D when you finally face off against a dragon, and the idea that you would face off against one, but the players know that it's red scales, it's definitely going to do fire damage, and also if it doesn't use fire, it's going to either claw or tail or bite, and it has this much fly speed. It's just like I want this to be more surprising and have abilities that you don't see coming. So I'm hoping that maybe the gem dragons will be a bit weirder, and they will, because if they, honestly, I'll feel massively cheated if they release like a sapphire, emerald, topaz, dragon, amethyst, whatever, and they release them all, and it turns out that they're the exact same as all other dragons, except they just have different damage types associated with their breath and their stuff, and I'll feel really, really cheated.
I would imagine there will be an element of that. I'd imagine they won't break the setup or the mold that they have for the dragons too much, but I do think they'll be a bit different, just because all of the gem dragons are psionic. They have some element of psionics as part of their thing, so I think like they might have like different actions. So like I'm sure they'll still have like frightful presence and stuff like that, but they might have. Oh yeah. They might. I would hope anyway that they'd have some other kind of mental related abilities, maybe like stuns or like just anything, or some kind of like status effect ability would be good. That isn't obviously frightful presence, because that's
like I'm not saying they need to break the mold entirely. Like I still think they should have a fly speed, and and have a breath weapon, and have claws and tails and teeth. But I'm like, give us a couple other, I don't know, what would you call them? The section on the stat block after all the ability scores and health and all that, but before they get into the actions, give us some interesting stuff in that section there, where they normally list I don't know, one example, if for example, if something had sunlight sensitivity or something like that, it'd be listed in a section of features, whatever you want to call it. I think give us some weirder stuff in that makes the dragons stand out a little bit.
I think they have done it before as well, because if you go and look at Theros, you've got mythic creatures rather than as a step up from legendary, and they tacked on, like, you'll have a whole thing, this is all like their legendary regular sheet, and then there's an extra square at the bottom where it's like, these are its mythic options. I think they've done that as well. I think isn't the Doulahan a mythic creature as well?
He is, and like I think what happens is he has however many hit points, and when you reduce him to 0 hit points, he immediately regains 100 and something hit points, and also now you have access to all these additional features because he's in. It's the definition of my final form.
Yeah,
if we're talking video game terms.
It's the second phase of the boss fight, like.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, I think they could do a lot with that, and that actually brings us into one thing that I'm probably, aside from like the subclasses and aside from the subclasses, I would say this is probably the thing I'm most excited about because it just sends my brain spinning with loads of ideas for world building, which is the introduction of the Elder Worms. These like ancient dragons, much older than like your ancient class dragons, but they're like these giant, incredibly powerful, almost godlike dragons that exist in every realm and every every realm and every timeline. But there's like slight differences there. If you've watched Loki, it's like they're highly linked to the prime material plane, and then in every other plane there's like they're so powerful that there is like an echo of them in that plane, and it's a different dragon that look different and has a different personality, but all of them share a mind and share an existence, and they're all linked through the various different planes to the one in the prime material, and they're like extremely powerful. And like I think as well it makes some mention of like the first world. I remember I saw a Todd Kendrick video talking about it, where like it's this idea that there was a world before the prime material that was like at least partially helped to be created by and destroyed by Bahamut and Tiamat.
Right.
And it's just
actually it says it here actually reveals the story of the first world and the role Bahamut and Tiamat played in its creation and destruction.
Oh god, it's almost like
you nail on the head.
Yeah, but just like the idea of these incredibly powerful like elder like I immediately was like, oh, what if you did a pantheon of gods, but like they're all dragons, like there's no human gods, like everyone worships these elemental like titan dragons. And I was like, oh, that would be fun. Like what kind of world
that
would
be
they
really
create?
serious, yeah.
You know, and like what would normal dragons look like in that world, and what would their relationship be to like the elder worms and stuff? It's just such good questions and such good like fodder for like world building and storytelling. Like I would almost immediately start doing stuff like this for like what I'm planning for my next campaign if I didn't already have an idea that I'm currently working through now.
I too I'm really excited because I have a lot of dragon and draconic based ideas I want to bring into my next campaign.
Cool.
Because I'm pretty dragon light on this campaign so far.
We've gotten to 11th level and have only just heard a mention of a dragon in a mountain. Like.
And I actually had one dragonborn character that you guys managed to miss on an adventure. He was there for you guys to discover and talk to, and I had a backstory worked out for him, and you guys were like kind of about to interact with him, and then you're like, no, let's go here instead, and I was like, oh, okay.
That's a shame.
Yeah. But I don't think I've done a single dragon. I haven't done anything dragon related to this campaign. I don't even think I've done something as simple as make you guys fight some guard drakes or anything like that. Like it's.
Did we fight a wyvern early on?
No.
So yeah, we haven't even fought a wyvern.
Yeah, So I'm exceptionally dragon light on this campaign. Yeah. But next campaign next campaign I'm hoping to like base it in the Empire to the south, and their sigil is a golden dragon on a field of white. So there's some stuff like symbolism and stuff that goes along with that, and the south I imagine has more dragons because the Empire is much bigger than the country you guys are currently in. So I'm hoping this book will really, really inspire me to do some cool stuff in the next campaign.
I'm gonna punch a dragon in the face.
I did that once.
Yes, you did. That was a wyvern. Don't get ahead of yourself.
That's a dragon.
No, it's not.
Check the stat block.
No, it's not.
Check the stat block.
No, it's
check
not.
The stat block.
I don't care what the stat block says, Conor. If it's a wyvern, it's not a dragon. Otherwise, it'd just be called a dragon.
So we were on an airship.
This is like people who are like, but acupuncture is like medicine. It's like, no, if it was medicine, it'd be called medicine.
They're dragons.
Then why are they called wyverns? I don't care. Do they have 4 legs, 2 wings, and a tail? No, they're not a dragon.
Well, that's a true dragon. We're running into semantics.
And okay, before people start getting all up in a twist about it. Okay, yeah, Asian dragons don't have wings traditionally, but come on.
They just serpentine through the sky.
Yeah. Also, a worm is a Western style drake. Anyway, yeah, that's what it is. It's a drake.
It's not a drake has no. In my head, drakes have no wings at all. They're like grounded dragons.
Yeah. There's some really big mental ones in Tolkien like that. There's like I can't. Is it Gothmog?
Look up some
Gothmog.
like size comparisons for Tolkien dragons, and you'll see that Smaug is that size. And is it what? No, Balerion. I'm thinking of,
and Calagon the Black.
And Calagon the Black is like that size compared to Smaug. Smaug is like the daintiest little fly compared to this other dragon that's the size of Erebor, the mountain.
Yeah. Like I think
he's enormous.
When he dies in the first age, he literally crushes like several mountain ranges just by falling.
Just by falling. Yeah. But yes, I did punch. I punched a wyvern.
Oh, evil Elder Drake and Calagon the Black. Oh, that would be class.
I want to tell my story about how I punched a wyvern.
Yeah.
So I was playing a ranger. I was a ranger. I used a bow. I was not a very strong character. I think I had a flat strength, maybe a 13 or something like that. And we were on an airship, and some people attacked it on riding wyverns, and someone went before me. I think the wyvern was the last thing standing because it had quite a few hit points, and we killed the riders and stuff like that. And whoever went before me said. I hit them and did X amount of damage, and the DM went, "Ooh, he has 1 hit point left." And it's like, Vaskeen, your turn. And I'm like, 1 hit point, eh? And I'm like, I'm pretty sure I can land a punch on this thing and do 1 point of damage. And I did, and because I wanted to capture the dragon and tame it. But yeah, I ran up. I said I put my bow away, and I run at it, and I punch it square in the nose, and I managed to hit. And my strength did 1 point of damage, and that was enough to non-lethally knock the dragon out. I did not get to tame it in the end, but it was still a fun story to be able to punch a wyvern in the nose and knock him out.
Do you want to tell the nice people listening what you did slightly before you punched the wyvern in the face?
People get really hung up on this. So there was a ballista on deck, and I think, if I remember rightly, I think what I wanted to do was I tried to hook the rope around the wyvern, and I wanted to make sure it couldn't fly away, because if obviously that's their advantage, is they can fly. And so I tied a rope onto the ballista bolt, and then hooked it around the neck of the wyvern, and I wanted to make sure it wouldn't go anywhere. So I took the ballista and I pointed it towards the deck, and I fired it in, and I wanted to stick it into the wood of the deck and pierce it there. I think I rolled too high on damage or something, and it ended up piercing the deck and piercing the deck below that. I kind of just shot out the bottom of the airship somewhere down below into the vast unknown. And everyone's like, "Why did you do that?" And I'm like, in my head it made sense.
To be fair, could totally see why you're doing it, but at the same time I was also like, why would you damage the only thing stopping us dropping hundreds of feet to the ground to our deaths?
I mean, it's not like I shot one of the gems that was keeping it aloft. I shot the deck.
This is true. This is true.
The wooden deck. In hindsight, I probably should have just taken my end of the rope and tied it onto a railing around the edge of the ship or something. But look,
or hand it to any of the strength users in the party.
Well, any of the what we have, we had 2 pretty heavily armored people. Right? You were a heavily armored fighter, and we had a heavily armored fighter paladin as well.
Had a fighter barb and a fighter paladin.
Yeah. And both you guys were wearing plate, I want to say.
I couldn't warp. I was wearing half plate because barbs can't wear full plate.
Oh, that's right, yeah. So yeah. I should have just done that, but look, here we are. Yeah.
But
lesson learned.
I think the last few things just to go over for Fizbans, and I think we've kind of covered most of it, is what you can expect is new feats, new spells, and also new magic items. They haven't gone super in-depth on the magic items, but I'd imagine probably a lot of really cool draconic stuff, maybe some new Dragon Slayer stuff. I wouldn't be surprised to see that. Maybe something, I wouldn't be surprised to see something akin to, the thing that Arcan, Joe Manganiello's character, has in Critical Role, where it's I think it isn't he wears a necklace or a chain or something around his neck, and if he puts it's like a bridle, and he can put it onto another creature, and he can it's the way he has the Manticore as a mount. It's like a thing that lets you control a creature.
Oh, okay.
I wouldn't be surprised to see something like that for dragons, or maybe there's item, I don't know if it's in D&D, but there's like items in the Souls games called like the dragon body stone or the dragon head stone or whatever, and they're like these magical stones that like can allow you to like partially transform into a dragon, and if you have all the parts of it, you can transform into like basically like a dragonborn, and you can like do a dragon breath and stuff like that, and you get some stat increases. I would love to see something like that in D&D, where like you activate this magic item and like for I don't know, like 2 turns or 3 turns, you get or like a minute or whatever, you get like a dragon head, and you could do like a breath weapon attack.
Yeah, I mean, there's the very first adventure that came out, Rise of Tiamat. Horde of the Dragon Queen, and Rise of Tiamat, because they kind of go hand in hand. Had a couple draconic magic items, but I think literally they have the Mask of Tiamat, which is really only, I think, as far as I'm aware, it's really only significant within the bounds of the story, because it has some stuff you have to do within the plot of the adventure. And then there's a dragon tooth dagger that it can do various damage types depending on the dragon it's taken from. But other than that, there's not a whole lot of very dragon specific stuff. So I'd like to see some cool draconic items and stuff like that. Obviously, you have like dragon scale armor and a few other bits. Dragon Slayer longsword.
A figurine of wondrous power of a dragon would be really cool.
Yeah, even if it's only like an adult or something like that, or even what would you call it, like what's it, like worm?
Young.
Yeah. If it was like a young, like so it's a large creature, that'd be still really, really cool. It does mention here that there's 20 different kinds of dragons that'll be introduced on this. I hope we get a nice mixture of like maybe a couple of wyvern variants, a couple of drakes, and then a couple of the biggies.
Do you reckon we get any new like Draco Lich type stuff?
Well, I mean, the Dracolich and the Shadow Dragon are both like templates that are kind of. So I would imagine maybe not, and it would just be expected that you could take like an Emerald Dragon and apply the Dracolich thing to it, you know. So my guess is no, but you never know. Yeah,
the gem dragons in general, though, I think will have a big impact, because you also now can have the gem dragon born, who have those things as well. And just to cover the feats again briefly, because we did do them in our previous UA video about draconic options. You've got they're called Gift of the Chromatic, Metallic, and Gem Dragons, each respectively, and they each have some pretty strong effects, I believe. From what I remember of the UA, the Metallic Dragon allows you to basically summon these like spectral wings that will block damage for you, I believe. Jeez, I'm forgetting now the.
Look, actually, I have the UA one open here.
If you wouldn't mind enlightening me.
The chromatic one. Let's see here now. The chromatic one lets you do for the next minute. You get a D4 weapon, or your weapon deals an additional D4 damage of the chosen type. You get that once a long rest, and then you can use a reaction to give yourself resistance to the damage type you chose when you chose the feat as well. The metallic one, you learn the Cure Wounds spell. I can cast it once. Without expending a slot. Once you cast a spell, can't do so again unless you have another slot to spend. You can manifest protective wings to shield you or others from attacks. When you or another creature you can see within 5 feet is hit by the attack roll, you can roll a d4 and grant a bonus to the target's AC equal to the number rolled, potentially blocking the attack. You can use a reaction a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus. And then the gem one is you increase your intelligence, wisdom, or charisma by 1. When you take damage from a creature that's within 10 feet, you can use a reaction to emanate telekinetic energy. And the creature that dealt the damage to you must succeed a strength saving throw, or take 2d8 force damage and be pushed 10 feet away from you. You can use this reaction a number of times each thing, blah, 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 proficiency bonus, blah, 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 long rest. So 3 of those are pretty cool.
Powerful.
There's also spells and stuff here. We won't get too into them, but do go and watch our dragon video. We do a full breakdown of the UA. Honestly, it's probably, I think I said at the time, it's like maybe the best UA we've gotten in ages, because there's a bit of everything. There's new races and updates for pre-existing races, and there's feats. There is spells. That's about it. But I mean, like, usually you just get a couple of subclasses or a couple of feats or this, and now we have like 3. It's a really, really dense UA, and it's well worth checking out. Especially in anticipation of the upcoming book. And like Martin said a while ago, the cover looks awesome. Even the standard cover looks really, really nice, but the limited edition cover is like a yin yang of a black and white dragon kind of swirling around each other. It looks phenomenal.
It's very cool. It looks like it'd be painted on the side of a van, and I mean that in the best way possible.
Yes. We should jump into the final book.
Yeah. So just as a last word on Fizban's again, that'll be out October 19th.
Yes.
And then the final one we have, it's another adventure module kind of book. It's been advised that it contains 4 adventures from level 1 to 10, and that is Strixhaven, a curriculum of chaos. This is a bit of an unusual one for D&D, and I think I'm open to it. I'm excited to kind of see what it is. But it's basically a very RP and like social encounter focused adventure book here. It kind of focuses on really like the college experience and like what it would be like to be at a magic college. Like if you've ever wanted to play a Harry Potter D&D game, this is the book for you. Like, because it's from what I have here, it's 4 adventures level 1 to 10. A cool little perk of it is when you join the college, you get a feat just for joining the college, which is pretty awesome. There will be new spells and feats in it as well. So in addition to just getting a new feat, you now will have some new additional ones that you can choose from. What's really exciting, there's apparently over 40 creatures and NPCs in the bestiary that will be as part of this book, which I'm excited to see. I was saying to Conor earlier, a little cautious about that because some similar stuff was said about Frostmaiden, and I found that bestiary a little disappointing because it was a lot of renames. But going into this one,
the Frostmaiden one had a lot of renames, and also a lot of the monsters that we got were just Arctic animals. We got like rabbits, and we got the knucklehead trout fish and stuff that like you're not actually going to build encounters out of. And don't get me wrong, Frostmaiden is still a really cool book, a lot of cool stuff in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like, I think it promised like over 200 stat blocks, or it was a lot. It was a crazy amount of, and I was like, wow, that's a lot of monster blocks. And in reality, I'd say less than half of them are things you're going to definitively use in encounters. Whether if you're factoring out things again that are just animals, that like snowy versions of pre-existing monsters and reskins. So I'm hoping, hopefully we do get some nice crunch out of that. I'm particularly looking forward to the monsters and stuff that are in this, particularly because this is another Magic the Gathering.
Yes, the crossover
with D&D. Whenever they do this, we tend to get very weird monsters, and I really like that.
Yeah.
Because what's it?
We've
Theros did it.
Theros, Ravnica, and there's another MTG crossover that I can't think of right now. It was Theros, Ravnica, and something else. No, Theros, Ravnica, and there's a third one I can't think of right now, and it's killing me.
I'm blanking on that as well. I actually don't know. But either way, like whenever they do that crossover, we tend to get the very non-typical D&D stuff, and I really enjoy that.
Yeah.
Because there are some out-and-out weird monsters in Ravnica, and Theros has some really cool, almost like old world kind of monsters where they're not so out there, but they're really, because Theros has a whole thing with like mortals and gods and stuff like that. You can fight some really bizarre otherworldly creatures.
And Theros introduced mythic creatures as well.
Mythic creatures as well.
Because they have like it's not just a Cerberus in Theros, it's the Cerberus.
Yeah.
And you can fight like there's a version of, because in Greek mythology giants had 100 hands and 100 heads. There's a specific race of giants.
I think he's called a 1,000-handed one or something like that.
That's it. Yeah.
100-handed one maybe. But
but that's in it there as a mythic giant to fight, and the art for that is so cool. He's got all these like floating hands behind him and stuff. So I like, if they're gonna do something similar with Strixhaven and introduce like monsters like that, I'm so excited.
Yeah, absolutely. So like I just like when we get those weird off the beaten track. I know some people complain whenever we get in Magic the Gathering books. Honestly, I don't know. Maybe some people burn through the pre-existing material way faster than we do. There probably is people who do that. Personally, I think that what we get tends to match my pace fairly nicely. And when we get a Theros or a Ravnica or whatever, I don't throw my head back and groan. I'm usually like, cool, this will be weird and interesting, and it won't ever run something in this world, but it'll be weird enough that I'll incorporate ideas from it into my own. Particularly because this is based, you mentioned it, it's based around a college, so it's all about like running a D&D game in and around a magical school. You guys are currently in a city called Temerai in my world, where there's a very famous lyceum of magical users. So this could give me some really cool ideas if I ever wanted to revisit this later in the campaign, or even the next campaign, or anything like that. So that could be kind of cool.
Yeah, no, it's something that I'm, because like I do have a mages college, and it's always, see, like, it's great when you go, this is the biggest mages college in the world, these are some of the professors, and these are some departments, and this is what it looks like, and then your players just like fill the rest out for you, and you never have to come back to that a lot, really, and go, and it's this is the dorms, and this is how you get to this building, and this is how you get to this building, but now you don't have to just kind of grow up around in the dark to try and come up with that on your own. I would imagine they'll give you a fairly good template for, like, if you want to do a magical college, or like a Woghearts, if you will. It'll give you a template for that.
Yeah. There's also they're introducing the owl folk race properly. Yes. In this one, they're calling them the Owlin. I really liked the owl folk. Okay, hold on, because I am gonna show you some art that I came across today on Twitter that made me go, oh, I want to play an owl folk now. So,
you could do do like an owl folk rogue, but you're like an assassin, and you're like a barn owl that like hunts at night.
Yeah, I think this one is an artificer.
Ooh, cool.
Not an alchemist artificer. So just to credit the person, they are at Owl Babe Art on Twitter.
Seems appropriate.
And I don't know if this will show up well on the camera.
Oh, that's so cool! An Assassin's Creed owl. He looks so. I think it's just because of the shape of the clothes and stuff. But it's very Ezio from Assassin's Creed. It's super reminds me
a little bit, yeah. And the big clawed hands and feet, and the face looks amazing. I just think it's so cool. I love when like proper artists draw their characters up on and throw them up online, because it always just makes me instantly want to play that race and class combination.
That's why that's almost that, like, aside from the fact that he's an incredibly talented artist and draws really awesome stuff, a lot of the reason why I follow Max Dunbar on Twitter and Instagram, because and for anyone who doesn't know who Max Dunbar is, he's the guy who basically did all of the art for Avernus. And like he designed Zariel, he designed
he's the I believe, I think he might be, I could be wrong on this, I'm almost certain he's the reason why the abyssal chicken exists, because he created the
abyssal chicken. That is correct.
He doodled the abyssal chicken as a joke when he was working on the project, and someone saw it and liked it and goes, we're definitely including that in the book. So if you're a fan of the abyssal chicken, you have Max Dunbar to thank.
Let's be real, we're all fans of the abyssal chicken.
He also has a really cool comic that he's kind of in the midst of, called Stone Star. It's really cool. It's a really cool sci-fi, almost Star Wars-esque arena that travels. It's a huge, like, rocky arena meteor that flies from planet to planet, and they do like arena battles against monsters or other people. It's super, super cool.
And as well, then I think we've got some. We'll get some new spells and feats as well, as part of the Strixhaven thing, which I'm super down for. One thing that we won't be getting that was in the UA, and I believe we did talk about this when we were discussing the UA, was prior to this in the UA they had. I was calling it just for my own, for just how I understand. They're basically like combo subclasses, where like you could take this school from Strixhaven if you were either a bard or a sorcerer. You could take this specific Strixhaven, why can I not think of School of Magic, the specific Strixhaven School of Magic, that would replace your class features when you would get your subclass features when you would get them normally as you level. When you would normally get a subclass feature for your regular subclass, you could replace it with a Strixhaven one. Now, there was a lot of people who didn't like that, because a lot of people very much enjoy, and I would be the same. What myself and other people enjoy about subclasses is that feeling of uniqueness that it gives your character, in that it's like that, along with your background and your race and like your backstory and all of that combines to make a unique character. So like, even if there's like thousands of assassin rogues out there, they're all going to be slightly different, and this kind of like homogenizing and comboing of classes, like, if you're either this or this, you can do this if you want that. I think a lot of people didn't like that kind of just smush it all together and generically kind of push it out.
I'm looking at them here. So we have like what's that? Let me see. They have the Mage of Lorehold, the Mage of Prismari, the Mage of Quandrix, the Mage of Silverquill. I don't know. Are they kind of like, I'm not familiar with Magic the Gathering. They sound kind of like Hogwarts houses. Don't at me if that offends you, or do, and tell me if I'm wrong, but they kind of sound like Hogwarts house-esque, but they study a specific subject matter within that one, school or whatever.
I'm not I used to play Magic years ago, but I was never very, very big into the Magic lore. So I'm honestly not sure. I think the in narrative reason for it was it's to do with like the paths they take to study, almost like in college, where you'll have like the faculty of humanities, the faculty of sciences, the faculty of mathematics, that kind of stuff. Whereas like it'd be many courses under the one faculty, but like overall it's all part of like that kind of faculty thing. I think that's the way they're going, because they're really hammering home the like college experience, and that was something mentioned in the Todd Kenrick video I was watching about it, where like they very much were trying to give that feeling of you're in college, it's a social thing, you're at the start of a thing. They were saying like you might even like NPCs you interact with, because this goes from level 1 to level 10, and at level 10 you graduate, which is a cool concept, because like by level 10 you're basically going into mid-tier D&D, which is a cool idea of like you get your early levels and kind of your progression out of the way in college, and then you come out of college and you're a fully trained adventurer ready for the real world.
Yeah, it's almost like, exactly. Okay, instead of starting off at level 1 and having barely any spells or anything like that, you're like, no, I'm level 10, I'm actually very capable of what I do. And now I'm going out to be I suppose it's is it the equivalent of like real life, in like I either start working immediately after school, or I'm a level 1 worker, or do I go to college for a few years and then I come out and I'm like, well, okay, I was going to say, and I have all the life skills necessary to survive in the real,
I'm a level 2 worker.
I'm a level 2, exactly. I'm a level 2 worker. Those 4 years are so well spent.
Oh god. Well, yeah, it's fun. I like personally, I don't think like I'm probably not gonna run an adventure in Strixhaven. I don't have any plans to do because I am a fan of D&D combat. I look at it like puzzle solving and problem solving with all your abilities. And so I like to throw everything in it. So like I if I don't do a session with combat, it's rare. But if I don't do it and I don't do combat for like 2 or 3 sessions, it's probably because there's a big combat coming very soon that I'm planning, and I don't want to overwhelm people. So like I think I'll use Strixhaven, like we were saying earlier, as almost as a source book, even though it is an adventure book, and just pulling monsters, pulling magic items. Like I hope now it's slightly different from what was the last book where there were magic items in it, but you couldn't get to them through the index. You had to go through. I think it might have been Ravenloft. Candlekeep. That was it. Candlekeep. I really hope they separate out the magic items this time. That was so frustrating.
Someone posted the day the book released. Someone put it up on Twitter, and honestly, I felt like someone had just spat in my cornflakes. I'm sorry. Did I do something to hurt you, Wizards of the Coast? Did I offend you in some way that you would force me? Now we have D&D Beyond. We can just filter whatever, blah blah. But like to force me to have to go through and not have a section at the end of the book that contains all our monsters and all our magic items. I'm sorry. Okay. Clearly, I've hurt you in some way, Chris Perkins, specifically. I don't know. Even though I'm pretty, he was one of the writers, but there was like 20 odd writers on that. But I thought it was very strange. I hope they have the foresight to not do that this time around, because I like flicking. Here's the thing. I like flicking through the books, right? I don't want to have to flick through the books. I don't want to have to mark a page or try to remember that this monster that I really like is on page 127. I'd like to be able to flick to the end of the book and know almost exactly where it is, because it's almost always at the end of the book. I know with D&D Beyond we can filter through it and stuff, but it's not as nice. And I know it's a really trivial thing. It's not as nice to filter through and just go, show me all the monsters and all the magic items that are in Candlekeep. I like having a book in my hands, and I like flicking through. It's the act of perusing a book. And I would like to continue doing that, Wizards. So what I'm basically trying to say is, don't F me.
they're to be fair to Wizards, they're pretty responsive to community feedback. In my opinion, in my experience with them.
I mean, look how quickly they shut down the these subclasses. When people said they didn't like them. Yeah.
So I would imagine they got quite a lot of feedback, very valuable and reasoned, and
I do feel bad.
Sure.
I do feel bad when, like, I'm looking here, and the three people are Mackenzie de Armas, Dan Dillon, and Jeremy Crawford were the three people who designed that UA. I genuinely feel bad because they spent trying to make a subclass work within the bounds of a single class and having it balanced is really difficult. Trying to have one subclass work within the bounds of multiple classes is exceptionally difficult.
Yes.
And I honestly feel bad because logistically this was definitely a lot of work. So I feel bad that it didn't get to be incorporated, but maybe they'll just make them specific to certain subclass or classes later and stuff like that, and you can just take it then. Maybe this Lorehold wizard will just become or Lorehold subclass will just become a wizard thing.
Yeah.
And they'll because I would hate to think their work goes unused. You know?
I don't think it does really. Very rarely do they scrap things. Like I remember back when Mike.
But what about that treachery paladin, Martin?
Yeah, but like I remember like when Mike Merles used to do his subclass design live streams. I remember like he designed the giant soul sorcerer, and that eventually was scrapped from the UA, but that came back around then as the Rune Knight, eventually. So I wouldn't be surprised if at least maybe not the exact subclasses, but at least the concepts from those subclasses are retooled, reused, and are pushed out in another book.
There was
not pushed out in a bad way, but like are brought out in another book in maybe like a more refined or focused way.
There's one subclass that I still have printed off and in a folder because I like it, and it's probably still online. The thing is probably still available online, but there's a subclass for like an earth sorcerer, an earth magic sorcerer, and it dips into paladin just a little, so you get this really nice Gish character, and I love it so much, and it never made it past UA because they did like 3 elemental classes. They did like a water, like a sea sorcerer, a flame sorcerer, and an earth sorcerer. And I loved them all because I love my elemental stuff, and it didn't make it. It didn't make it in. Also, we should wrap up because 1, we're coming on time, and 2, I'm basically invisible at this point.
Yeah,
on the camera.
It does look like we're exact opposites of each other at the moment.
But Martin.
Yes, Conor.
That's all the time we have today.
Oh, and it's been a good time today. It has been, Conor.
It was. I'm super pumped for all these books. Yeah. We have a very D&D rich few months coming to us between now and the end of the year, and I'm super pumped for it.
Yes, it's gonna be a blast to finish out 2021. And no one Wizards, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a book coming out in January as well.
Yeah, at the rate they're going, I mean, they're really churning these things out, like.
Yeah, absolutely. But say thanks very much everybody for tuning in. Particularly after we had our break week last week. So thank you very much for sticking with us. Conor, where can people find you on the internet?
People can find me on the internet on Twitter at 0.Conor, ZeroPointConor, 1 N, very important. You can't really see it. Even the people on camera can't see it, but I'm holding up a finger right now to show that it means the number 1.
We can just about.
And other than that, you can find me every Friday here on the Micflayers podcast at 6 p.m. Irish time.
Awesome.
I don't have my list open of all our platforms.
I think I got it up here. We're okay. But you can find me similarly on the Micflayers podcast every Friday 6 p.m. Irish time. You can also find me on Twitter at so sorry it's over. I almost said your Twitter name for some reason there. And also you'll find me on a lot of the time on the Micflayers podcast Twitter account, which is at Micflayers pod, and you can find our links to that in the bottom. You can find the podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Breaker, Radio Republic, and Google Podcasts.
Yep, I'm pretty sure that's it.
I think I said Radio Republic. It's Radio Public, and Google Podcasts. If you want to indulge in some audio-only listening, specifically those ones. And yeah, that's pretty much where you can find me on the internet. If you have any comments, questions, or anything you'd like to see us cover, please leave them below in the comment section, or shoot us a message on Twitter, or DM us on Twitter as well. Our DMs are open. So if there's anything you'd like us to cover, we do fan requested episodes, so please do let us know. But with that said, that'll be a goodbye from me. Bye-bye. And a goodbye from Conor.
Later, folks.
And we'll see you on the next episode of the Micflayers podcast. Bye.